There is a silent corner of the human soul that resists letting go. We keep things because, unknowingly, we also keep emotions. Broken objects, forgotten papers, unopened letters, clothes we no longer wear. Everything we accumulate, especially those that no longer serve any practical function, represents an unresolved part of our psyche. However, on the other side of the world, there is a culture that has learned to live differently. The Japanese, in their ancestral wisdom, do not keep useless things. And this is not simply a matter of tidiness or aesthetics. It is a profound manifestation of psychic health, of existential clarity. It is a form of individuation. From my perspective, as Carl Jung, what the Japanese have understood, even if they don't call it that, is the relationship between the unconscious and the object. Every external object has an internal reflection. Accumulating things we no longer use is a way of postponing grief, of avoiding emotional confrontation, of distracting ourselves from what is essential. On the other hand, to let go, to release, to tidy up, is a symbolic act of reconciliation with time, with death, with inevitable change in Japan. The act of getting rid of what no longer serves is not seen as loss, but as gratitude. When saying goodbye to an object, they do so with a small gesture, a silent thank you that honors its past usefulness. This, although it may seem trivial, is deeply transformative, because where many see trash, they see history. Where others see waste, they see closure. And in that closure, there is peace. The Western collective unconscious has been shaped by centuries of accumulation. More is better. To have is to have power. To keep is to secure the future. But in that impulse also hides a deep fear. The fear of not having, the fear of losing, the fear of death. Every drawer full of useless things is a small monument to fear, and the soul knows it. That's why we feel so heavy, so stuck, so anxious, because we are surrounded by symbols of the past that no longer resonate with the present. The Japanese, on the other hand, understand the flow. In their culture, inspired by Shinto and Zen Buddhism, everything is in constant movement. Nothing remains. Nothing is fixed. Impermanence is not tragedy, it is beauty. And from that worldview, there is no sense in clinging to what no longer has life. Keeping what no longer vibrates with the now is a way of interrupting the vital flow. It's like preventing a river from flowing because we became fond of a stone. One of the concepts that most catches my attention is mochi. This Japanese word has no direct translation, but it means something like the sacred space between things. It is not emptiness. It is pause. It is presence. It is the breath that allows the essential to manifest. In a traditional Japanese house, there is no excess. There is no visual noise, because the soul needs space, and where there are too many things, there is no room for the soul. I have worked with many patients whose homes were exact reflections of their inner state, loaded, chaotic environments with meaningless objects. And in each case, behind that disorder, there were trapped emotions, unwept pain, unclosed grief, relationships that still hurt in the form of old letters, hidden photos, gifts that no longer brought joy. I would tell them, before we talk, tidy your space, because the unconscious doesn't only live in your dreams, it lives in your objects. And when you surround yourself with dead things, your psyche also withers. In Japan, the art of living is expressed in the small, a clean bowl, a flower in the center of the table, a lamp that illuminates just what is necessary, nothing in excess, nothing lacking. And that external harmony is not superficial. It is medicine. Because the soul, like the body, needs oxygen, and the soul's oxygen is space, silence, the absence of useless things. When the Japanese do not keep what no longer serves, they are doing more than tidying up. They are choosing which symbols they want to live with. They are defining their identity, because what you keep defines you. And if you keep out of fear, you become fear. If you keep out of scarcity, your life fills with lack. But if you choose to surround yourself only with what vibrates with your current truth, then each object becomes an ally of the soul. In my work, I call that symbolic congruence. Living surrounded by symbols that support your individuation process, not accumulating for the sake of it, not keeping out of nostalgia, but choosing consciously. Does this object represent who I am today? Or does it tie me to a past version of myself that no longer exists? That is the key question, and the Japanese, without needing a complex psychological language, have been asking it for centuries. Many times, when a patient cannot move forward, when they feel stuck, I suggest starting with their environment. Empty a drawer, clear a closet, look at what you have been avoiding, because the physical act of letting go has a direct resonance in the psyche. And it's not about aesthetic minimalism, it's about emotional alchemy. What you don't release possesses you. What you keep without need becomes a burden. The Japanese do not keep useless things because they have understood, through their philosophy of life, that the essential cannot be possessed. It cannot be stored. It is lived, honored, thanked, and then let go. Like the seasons, like youth, like relationships that had their time and then dissolved. Letting go is not forgetting. It is integrating, and that is the true art of living. So if today you feel lost, heavy, disconnected from yourself, look around. What are you keeping that no longer vibrates with who you are? What does that object represent that you haven't used in years? What are you afraid to let go of? Because there, in that small act of release, you may be making the deepest gesture of self-love. As I said in my studies, the unconscious is not an enemy, it is a guide, and it speaks to you constantly, even through your drawers. Listen, observe, and learn from the Japanese silence. Learn from the space between things. Learn the art of living with just enough, with what is necessary, with what resonates with your present soul. Because, in the end, we are not what we accumulate. We are what we choose to honor. And the beauty of life lies precisely in not keeping what has already completed its cycle, but in thanking it and letting it go.